Hey, Low Code Approach listeners, this is Wendy Haddad. Before we jump into this week's episode, I wanted to let you know that we are starting to plan for the next season, and we want to make sure we hear from you on what is most important and relevant in terms of the topics that we'll be choosing. So if you could open a web browser and pop over to aka.ms/low code topic request, that's aka.ms/low code topic request, all one word. Fill out that brief survey on what topics and what subjects, what guests you might want to hear from. And who knows, maybe it'll make it into the next season of the podcast. Thanks so much and happy listening.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Low Code Approach. I'm Sean Feeney, a host of this podcast, but I'm also a senior product marketing manager on the Power Platform team, and I'm joined by...
I'm Wendy Haddad. Do I also have to say I'm a host of the podcast?
I think that we know that, but I just want to make sure people know that I'm here, because sometimes I kind of fade into the background as the show goes on.
So Ken, behave yourself. That's your warning. I'm Wendy Haddad. I'm a senior cloud solution architect, delivery lead, and a former Microsoft customer. And Ken and I are usually arm wrestling over the question mic. And I am joined by...
I think I'm Ken today. I'm pretty sure I am. I'm Ken Aguilar, principal program manager. And Sean, I've got a question for you today. What day is it? It's Uday.
Wah, wah, wah. The times are getting worse, Ken.
It's so great.
It's good to have you on, Uday. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for having me here today. I came from a pro dev background and then worked on SharePoint for many years and then switched over to Power Platform pretty early on. I feel fortunate that I jumped in when I jumped in. That the first wave had seen huge changes, what it was able to do before and what it's able to do, and then the potential of what we can do with Power Platform. So I work at Accenture at the moment as a practice lead. I wear two hats, one internal and one external. Internal, I sit on an advisory board for our Power Platform implementation, which is happen to be the largest in the world. Accenture has about 760,000 employees. And then I sit on the advisory board, more on the technical strategy, roadmap. Whatever we learn inside, I get to take it outside to my clients. And so it's kind of like a complete loop. You learn outside, bring it in, learn inside, take it out to customer, and then provide that feedback over to Microsoft. So I am fortunate to be in this position.
You're definitely an MVP in this area for sure. And so we're really glad to have you on. I'm going to double click because something resonated with me. So the topic for the listeners today, we want to talk about building that champions community or building that Power Platform community. That's interesting to me that you come from a dev background. I don't think that devs are always thinking along that line. So how did you get from being more on the dev side to I need to build that champions community and foster it?
Interesting question. Yeah, thank you for asking that. From a dev background, even though I've been part of the community since the early days, I jumped in, I started doing .NET. I'm going to date myself, but classic ASP actually. And after that, went to .NET. And I was very involved in the local community because I wanted to learn. What I've learned through the year is as individual, you can only learn one. But if you work with community, you are hearing these different ideas, different concepts. So you have an opportunity to learn from a lot of people. So oftentimes when I go to an interview, what I say is you're not just hiring me, you're hiring the community that's behind me or in front of me or side of me, because I'm learning from the community and bringing that power, just not just one person, but the entire community. So which resonates really well. So going from dev background, I agree, it was hard, but then I immediately realized that being part of the community, you learn. At the same time, whatever you learn, you have an opportunity to share back also. So initially, in my initial career, there was a lot of learning from me. And then as I felt comfortable, slowly started kind of contributing more.
Uday, you mentioned something interesting, right? Like you bring the community with you and your developer background and how those two play together. One thing that comes to mind is, and we were chatting a little bit before we started recording, where you're like, hey, how do we break misconception of Power Platform being only used for really like proof of concepts and then kind of moving on in the development process? How do you, with your developer background, help the community see past just that proof of concept phase into like further enterprise development? Could you dig into that a little bit for us, please?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for teasing me that question. It's actually lately, last few years, my focus has been not just developing citizen dev apps, but also a value add, right? What problem are we solving? And I'll give you a quick example. Like it was about before Accenture, I was at a smaller consulting company. What we developed there was pretty interesting. When you have a surgery, in the surgery room at a hospital, there's a checklist. There's a thing called crash cart. So that the crash cart require, what they put in there is something could go wrong in the emergency room, right? And so while you're at the surgery, something could go wrong. And so it has a list of things that would be required on an emergency situation. And so it depends on different types of surgery, different types of things are required. So this hospital, pretty renowned, right? Big hospital, trusted to use Power Platform to track those items that are in the crash cart. So the person will come in, check, make sure, okay, this is the surgery scheduled for at like 5 a.m. and this type of surgery, these are the things could go wrong. And here are the things that we need to put it on the cart. And so the app was built in Power Apps. And then second layer person will come, kind of like a survey, I guess, or a checklist, you can call it. And so second person will come, make sure, and then the supervisor will come in and verify, right? And then as the things are used, you can check it, check out. And then obviously the next surgery is scheduled, you again go back and do. So this renowned high value use case, you think about it, it's a life and death situation, right? One thing is missing in that card, somebody could lose. So this hospital trusting Power Platform to build that app was phenomenal, right? And so these are the types of use cases that I've been focusing on lately.
So I'm hot off a conversation with a customer about citizen development and the need for a community. And I think that oftentimes customers lean a little bit more heavily toward, well, we have an office hour. If they have a question, they can come ask us. But I think the community is so much, or maybe we have just a chat open, but the community is so much more. And so can you talk to us about some of the different parts or evolution of a Power Platform community and some of the things that maybe you've tried?
Sure. I'll give a quick example of how we're implementing at Accenture, which is where I work. So we started, obviously, you got to build your champion community first. Start small, find these interested, passionate individuals, bring them together, give them content. They're content hungry. They want to learn, right? They want to grow. So, and it's contagious. Once you see people kind of working, solving problems, other people will see. And so what we did was the community was sort of confined, and then we created a Viva Engage, at the time Yammer, a few years ago, Viva Engage community. And now people are interacting and somebody's asking questions and it's into a support system. Individual, like users within the community is answering the questions. So, and we're curating the things that are being discussed there, and then whether it needs to be published in a blog or addressed separately. So our team is constantly monitoring Viva Engage conversation and finding some key points to see whether the answers are not getting, like questions are not getting answered properly, then we jump in, answer questions, or create a blog. And so it's been organic. We're seeing one person helping another, not knowing where they are, but just the passion. They bring the passion to the table. That's all you need, right? Willing to learn and grow. And so now even I sometimes go there and I say like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, right? So I'm also getting an opportunity to learn more. And it's been working really well. So a little less support from the central point, but then organically, this is a community helping out each other. It's been great.
So Uday, I'm just playing back a lot of the conversation in my head so far. One of the things you said really resonated with me because we build all this great technology with Power Platform and it's moving so fast. Now we're leaping into AI and so on. But the strength of the platform is not just the technology, it's the community. So when you said that, you're not just hiring me, you're hiring the community, it really, really hit home. What would you say to customers or organizations who may be not really open to letting the community within their organizations manage themselves? Like they're afraid of these solutions and just putting things out there. They always think that it has to be supported by enterprise support staff and so on, not just self-service, like you kind of alluded to inside of Viva Engage and so on.
Very interesting question. I love that. So I think that you lose an opportunity to retain people that are going to grow within the organization, right? Whether it could be champion or leadership, the next generation of their company leadership, whatever that is. So the company will lose. First thing is they're not going to be happy, right? All these people, companies not embracing that kind of community, kind of embracing that community aspect of it. There are a lot of companies that are out there doing it. So you could lose those employees. I guess I'm going too far here.
I think you're not. It sounds like, and I'm not trying to lead you here, but you're stunning a little bit of their opportunity for growth, so to speak.
Yeah.
I also think just from a little bit of my background, before I was in product and service management, I actually was in customer success internally in an organization and saw the potential of the Power Platform and asked for that to be a stretch assignment to start that community because I believed in that technology so much. And so what I learned in this organization, which was very diverse, we had several acquisitions, there were different cultures, is you lose some of the domain expertise if you stifle that culture, because IT cannot fully understand the specific needs of every part of the organization, at least without a tremendous amount of work on their part. And so
it also can't scale, Wendy. I'm like, it's just impossible.
Not at all. And it's funny, I've been talking with some customers recently about different product enhancements that we're doing, because the more that we can get ahead of either sharing information and guidelines, or I love your point, Uday, about taking the chat, the conversations, pulling out those insights and going, this is a common theme. I don't want to answer these questions 15,000 times. Let's write a blog. Let's do an article. Maybe you can use Copilot Studio for a chatbot to answer questions. Those kinds of governance things actually minimizes the burden for IT. And so it's a really, really fantastic point.
And also, there's a unmet demand for IT, and there's always going to be 80-20 rule, right? We've been talking about this in our pro code before. 80% of the works get done, 20% is always gets reprioritized, and that never gets to see the app side of them, but they never get solutionized. You start with that 20%. Now, IT can focus on the high priority things, right? And so Power Platform covers that gap where IT haven't been able to. But now, slowly, it's kind of flipping. So Power Platform can tap into that 80% of the solutions that IT is developing because it's capable. It's like there's Dataverse, there is Power Automate, like hyper automation with Power Automate Desktop. So all of these tools combined together, you can tap into that 80% of high critical application that in the previous world, Power Platform was only like, it's only for low code. That bottom 20% is where it fits in. No, I mean, the conversation is slowly shifting over to, think about it, the Microsoft cloud, like all the industry cloud. If you look underneath the hood, 30, 40, 50, 60% of the applications are built on low code, no code, right? So it does happen. Microsoft is trusting and building the tool. Then as a consumer of the product, I feel comfortable, given the journey that we've gone, I feel comfortable just creating high value critical applications. So 80-20 rule kind of like flips somewhat.
Hey, Uday, so as organizations are rolling out Power Platform, right, and you're building a community and you're hopefully building champions within that community, as Power Platform becomes more mature with its offerings for the admin, right, and IT, like things like managed environments where you've got like custom maker onboarding and great things like environment routing and environment groups, do you see there a chance of building a champion within IT and then kind of a top-down approach from IT to the community to build champions that way? And if not, how do you see making IT the champions in the organization?
Interesting question. I think the important part is it could be the unknown of uncertainty of what value the tool brings to the table, right? As an admin, if you show them the value this platform will give them, it's actually going to be less stressful for them, right? Because the managed environment has bunch of tools and routing, the sharing. Sometimes IT gets involved, like it's been shared with everybody. You can limit the sharing all these managed environment features has, like the catalog, which is the Power Catalog, the pipelines, things like that you have to do, the IT will have to do, set up and everything, that managed environment is going to do it. So I think it's more about educating admins of the features that the managed environment has that will simplify their life, would bring them, I guess, on board. From there, it will be a much easier transition, right? They will embrace it, they will support it, and passionately they will increase it also, right? From a visibility point of view.
Yeah, Uday, I love your point about the technology sort of from a governance and security perspective, enabling the community to be able to build these applications. One of the things that I remember seeing in the past was, well, name the organization. They became very proficient with taking some of their IT personnel and really training them from an IT perspective in the platform itself, automations, apps, and so on. And then what they did was they crossed them over into a hybrid role where they moved them into HR or finance or so on and trained them up there. But then specifically, those folks were now building applications for HR and for, finance and so on. And you could see, back to your point earlier, sort of the growth of these individuals because they were now able to really transform their careers. So I guess my question for you is, how has the platform helped you in your career?
Yeah, excellent question. Take a few steps back. When I was doing SharePoint, I did SharePoint for many years, both back end and the front end. I was more of a contributor, meaning working on projects. I valued some of them where I was very satisfied with what I did. Power Platform and the community has been my resume, actually. Last 3 jobs that I got was just from my LinkedIn profile. MVP definitely has helped, and the amount of contribution that I make to the community, whether speaking at events. A couple of my interviews have been very, very simple, right? They will say, we see your public profile. Yeah, we have your resume. We don't have anything. And sometimes I had to ask, like, hey, ask me for more questions. I was fortunate, right? And so it has boosted my career where I am. And now the Copilot Studio, the declarative Copilot, extending Copilot, agentic framework, right? It's taking me to the next level. I'm getting an opportunity to work with the thought leader in the industry and bringing kind of like reinventing how we look at business processes with the generative AI. My career has been boosted because of Power Platform. And I'm fortunate. I'm passionate. I'm fortunate I jumped in when I jumped in.
I would echo the same thing. I mean, I started in educational technology, but later customer success, and saw the Power Platform, and through the building the community and being recognized in the community and fostering that, got an opportunity as I started becoming more passionate about governance to go into product and service management and actually govern the platform, which later brought me to Microsoft. And so I'm hearing so many people having those career stories and success opportunities there. I feel like we've been using the word champion, but let's maybe define what a champion is, Uday. Like, how should we think about when we say a champion community? Because I think there's different flavors, and maybe we can even do like a quick roundtable. Ken, you've done some work, I've done some work, Uday as well, of different ways we've built a champion community. That would be kind of interesting to hear. But Uday, how are you defining a champion community?
The way I put it is, it has to come from, I'm not going to say it has to, but what I've seen is if it comes from business, who knows the business domain, and they know the problem, they're close to the problem. And then also somebody who is finding ways to solve problems, whether within Excel, if you go back in the days, Access database, SharePoint list, right? Finding solution, being creative, solving a problem. If you fit into that bucket, then we say, okay, you have the passion to take this problem into the next level to solve, like find a solution, right? Those are the people that will embrace, learn, and share with the community, not just keep it to themselves, but across whoever they're working with. So I would say find somebody who is close to the problem, and then you'll have 1 or 2 or 3 people who tend to go outside their expertise, extend it in such a way that they're being creative to solve a problem, and then give them Power Platform, right? And so the Power Platform is easy to learn. And so now you have business problem with the Power Platform knowledge. Now you're adding value. So find those people within your organization. If it's a small organization, a couple of people, large organization, 10, 20, 30, 40, right? Depending on how large your organization is. Find these like-minded people and provide them, nurture them with content that Microsoft has been sending out, right? It's been too many innovations, too many things coming in. So created kind of like a timeline of this is what we're going to focus on, best practices with Power Platform, how to write performing Power Apps. The next week could be Power Automate, right? And so nurture them, grow them immediately. That's very contagious. And you'll see across the company, everybody's embracing, and then you will have a good community pretty immediately.
So what I'm hearing from you is this a lot of education, right? And proactively getting ahead of things versus reactively responding, which sometimes is a little new for IT. So that's maybe one, I won't even say a take, because I think all of these are core principles that are true. But Ken, maybe what are some things that you've done as you've built your own champions community as a customer before coming to Microsoft?
I mean, how much time do we have left right now?
You have 30 seconds. Go.
I don't think I can do it in that time, Wendy.
20 seconds.
It's been an interesting journey, you know, like I look back at a lot of it, and my first interaction with Power Platform, some folks who know me may have know this, like the first app that I ever saw in my org when I was managing, you know, as an admin, was a viral application that had over a weekend 50,000 monthly active users. From 0 to 50,000, just like instantly. And I instantly pinged that person. Hi, Alan Chai. I know you're listening. It was you. Right. And I was like, you know, what the heck are you doing? And so after that, you know, it's just sort of initially, I'll be perfectly honest, Wendy, it was a love-hate relationship. I was like really looking at things, but I'm looking at it more from a security perspective and governance and like, what is this going on? But then when I really started sitting down and talking with the business and seeing what the value of these things are, and then how the community started coming together, we started really encouraging things like, okay, hey, let's have hackathons. Let's not just have hackathons. Let's also build, like you said at the time, Yammer, which is now Viva Engage. Let's actually do that. And then we started having small conferences and speaking engagements and all of these other things. And it just, for me, not just like my career, but other folks around me and in the community, you could see it just launching them into, you know, a new altitude, right into the stratosphere, so to speak. Like Wendy, honestly, probably you and I met because, you know, someone connected us this way. I think it was Zohar, maybe.
Yeah, it was Zohar. So we can thank him for that later. But yeah, Sean, I'm curious because you've also, I mean, all of us had a life before Microsoft. So what have you done in your former life for the community? Actually, what are you currently doing?
Wow. So I think I'll go back and drop a technology that Ken loves and Wendy, and we all have an affinity towards, but SharePoint. Right? Like, so I think all of us on this call for sure, and a lot of the listeners have a history with SharePoint, and building a community with SharePoint and kind of getting people away from really a lot of the manual processes and a lot of the pen to paper processes that they were doing before and moving over to SharePoint was challenging. And so I worked for the largest county government in North Carolina at the time. And so you've got, 27 satellite buildings, you've got, every organization under the moon for this. And so trying to build a community that understands the value of a new technology being introduced, and then the workload that comes on with that new technology. Sometimes it's frightening. Sometimes people understand the efficiency gains by taking it on. But when you're going through and grabbing like resource requirements and trying to let people understand or organizations understand the importance of bringing on this new technology, make it more personal for them. And so they'll understand the value of it because it relates to them and their everyday work. If they just see it as, a new set of tools thrown before them and they have to figure out how it applies to what they're doing, it's very, very difficult for them to want to use it or become passionate about the product. So as we were going through and working with everyone, it became apparent that if you tell them how they gain value from working with this technology, it becomes more relatable. Wendy, I know you have these same things going on. I know you can drop some nuggets of knowledge for us, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that same topic.
I feel like I can resonate with a lot of what you all are saying, because Uday, I think especially I loved your comment earlier, and I'm going to emphasize it again for our listeners, creating a forum where you can have people posting questions, the community is helping each other. Both that could be a call, and we have done that in the past, as well as the forum. It allows you to get ahead in terms of pulling those insights for training. And you were so profound there in saying that. What it also does, and I'll be honest, when I now put on my Ken hat, Dr. No for a minute, Power Platform gives us insights into what people are building, but it doesn't give us insights into what people are thinking. And that was where this forum was coming. And I, as an admin, could learn and see, oh, there's a need here. There's a common pattern. One of the things I was doing toward the end is, what are the common needs across the organization? Maybe there's multiple apps solving the same problem. Let's bring them together to solve this as an organizational standard versus, individual silos. Going to your champions community, something about, you talk about the career building, and we used to do success stories. So highlighting how is that used in the organization, promoting that, giving them an ability on our office hours to do a presentation, gave them recognition and a platform both for their careers, seen as leaders. It also gave us the ability to pick people that we saw making a difference, like Ken, our friend Alan, building, whatever app with 50,000 users, and say, let's have a direct line of communication. We've got a BAT phone set up, and I'm going to be making sure that we're letting you know what's happening proactively in governance. And so you can also be an influencer, right? And help steer the community in a governance, a secure direction as well. And so we've done events. I flew to Bristol and did a hackathon and training there. So it's really an exciting time to basically, like to your point with scalability, can extend the IT into the whole organization. I say security and governance is a team sport. Everyone gets to be a part of that. I know, Sean, we're landing the plane. So any final thoughts or questions or resources maybe we can point listeners to?
Yeah, Uday, what can you share with us? So, say somebody wants to build a community or help nurture and foster champions in their organization. Anything that you recommend they take a look at to aid them in that journey?
Yeah, one other thing that I want to add into the forum, right, where people are asking questions, answering, and then how we're curating to create our blog content. One other thing that we're using internally is Microsoft is doing a really good job of publishing like this feature coming. So it's really available right on their people face, tons of this information. A lot of people are reading it and then they're getting excited. Like, when can I get this generative AI Copilot feature, right? And so those questions are being asked in the forum, and we take that as a feedback for our roadmap. So now you don't have to think like, what should we roll out? Go to the forum and see what people are interested in, what they are asking. So that information from there can be fed into our roadmap, and then we can have a strategy around when to roll out. And obviously, the first thing that we do is, what are the governance attributes available today? And so we immediately work with Microsoft. Accenture has a very good relationship with Microsoft. We work very closely. And so immediately jumped in a call or a meeting with the PM and then talk about how can we govern, right? How can we roll out in a governed way? So I just wanted to put that in, right? It not only just training, but also it's feeding for what's coming down the road. What features should we roll out? It's been a very valuable input. That way we don't have to do any surveys, right? So it reduces our work also. And then from a training point of view, right, from a community, I think Andrew Gaskin came here a few months ago, maybe a year ago. And in fact, actually, at Lumen, when he was starting the community, I was fortunate to be in the initial journey working with him. If you're learning, Reza Durrani is superstar, right? Everybody knows him. I was fortunate to work with him in my early career.
And we'll include links to all these people in our show notes, all these great resources as well. I love the name dropping of all the friends in the podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah, big shout out to our boy Andrew. He is phenomenal. Awesome. Uday, thank you so much for joining us and giving us all this fantastic information and really helping, one, like share knowledge, and two, helping grow the community and showing the power of the community, and for all the stuff you do with Microsoft Power Platform and Biz Apps. So thank you, Uday, and we can't wait to chat with you again.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.